Hello everyone, that's tuning into the verification for the summer 2016 forecast. So at the end of May, we issued our summer forecast, which was for a slightly warmer and drier than average summer, but it was a very weak signal. We wasn't confident in this prediction, and maybe with the idea that the earlier part of summer could be a little bit better in terms of warmer, drier conditions compared to the second half, which perhaps a little bit more mixed. So summer is over and done with now, of course. Meteorological summer runs from the 1st of June to the 31st of August, although as we're experiencing right now, the weather doesn't always go along with our ideas. It'll do its own thing, and at the moment we're still firmly in summer through this early part of September. But meteorologically speaking, we're now into autumn, so summer is over and it's time to verify the forecast. So we'll have a look at the anomalies for temperature and precipitation for the summer of 2016 in a second and see how we did. Whenever we issue these long-range forecasts, it's important that we come back and verify to see what happened, if it went wrong, if it went right, and that's what we're going to do for this video. So before we get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all pages. Have a browse widgets, click through the links. You'll be helping us to pay for the website. Thanks very much for doing that. So we're going to start off with the summer 2016 mean temperature anomaly map set against 61 to 1990. Always have to explain with this, but at the moment we're in the curious position of having two periods running alongside each other. So we've got 61 to 1990, which I think the WMO, World Meteorological Organization, is still using. That's the old and cold temperature series, which dates right way back into 1960s. 1960s were a very cold decade with many really cold winters, and the summers were pretty grim in the 1960s as well. So 61 to 1990 is a colder sort of average temperature period, whereas the more modern 81 to 2010 period, which in my view is the period we should be using exclusively, but for some reason we're still not, 81 to 2010 is a warmer temperature series because it takes into account the warming that occurred particularly through the 1990s and into the early 2000s. So we have to, when we issue these long-range forecasts, we have to come back and compare to both 61 to 1990 and 81 to 2010, just so that we know what we're talking about. So we're going to start off with the summer 2016 mean temperature anomalies for 61 to 1990. And you can see what happened is that it was a warmer than average summer right the way across the country. So for Scotland down into Northern England, it was slightly warmer than average. Northern Ireland, most of England and Wales came out really quite warm, up to around a degree or more above average. And in the far southeast, there was a little area through the East Midlands in towards East Anglia where we actually came out around 1.5 towards 2 degrees above average. So a very warm summer down in the southeast. So there was a bit of a north-south divide there, though all places above average. The north just a little bit above average, the south actually quite significantly above average, particularly down in the southeast of the country. That's against 61 to 1990. Now against 81 to 2010, it's nowhere near as dramatic. So actually for Scotland and Northern England, we come out just round average, maybe a little bit above, but more or less bang on average across much of Scotland. The rest of the UK generally coming out just a little bit above average. So if we take the forecast, which was for slightly above average temperatures, against 81 to 2010, it wasn't too bad really. If we take it against 61 to 1990, we probably undercut the temperatures a little bit. What we did say about the temperatures is that we wasn't sure what was going to happen with La Nina. If we shifted very quickly into a La Nina from the El Nino that we had earlier in the year, the idea was that it would probably be quite a poor summer. But we did say that if we didn't get that switch from El Nino to La Nina, at the start of summer we wasn't sure if we'd get it or not. If we didn't get that switch, there was the potential to get quite a hot summer with ENSO, with an ENSO neutral summer. And that's what's happened, actually. We haven't gone to La Nina, we've just stayed around ENSO neutral. And it perhaps a little bit disappointing if you wanted a hot summer. A lot of these summers that occur after an El Nino, where it's just ENSO neutral, they do tend to be probably hotter than the some of them we've had. Although right now we really are pushing the temperature to an extreme, really, for September. So it's delayed, but it could well be that that hot summer that we were sort of toying with for this year, maybe that actually this is appearing now in September, due to the fact that we didn't get that flip from El Nino to La Nina. But in terms of the forecast, the anomaly that we gave was for slightly above average temperature. So okay, against 81 to 2010, probably undercut the temperatures a bit against 61 to 1919. What about precipitation? We said it's probably like to be a slightly drier than average, so I wasn't really sure on that. And this is the anomaly set against 61 to 1990. A lot of regional variation, you'll notice. So northern eastern parts of Scotland, quite wet summer. Northern Ireland also had a little bit of a wetter summer. Northwest England as well, interestingly, had a bit of a wetter summer. But down in the south, it's quite a dry summer. So for much of central southern England, precipitation anomalies generally coming out drier than the average. That's 61 to 1990. Very similar story from 81 to 2010. Again, slightly wetter average in the north and west, wetter average across northwest England, and drier than average, significantly so, across some parts of the Midlands and central southern England. So a lot of regional variation. I suspect a lot of that is down to the thundery nature of the summer. We did have, particularly in July and August, quite thundery scenarios cropping up, which meant that some places got a bit of a deluge, other places stay most dry. You'll also notice that generally the coasts were a little bit wetter than inland. That is something else that stands out around the fringes. It does look as though it's a bit wetter, whereas inland regions tend to be a bit drier. I'm not sure about the precipitation. I think there's been a lot of regional variation there, so I can't really claim success for the precipitation for this forecast. It has been a very complicated season. Just show you how the temperatures break down over the summer. So June came out generally against 61 to 1990. Actually, I think that's a bit wrong. That's the mean temperature average value. So what we've got to do is just set that to 1990. Right, that's the anomaly. And we can see that for the anomaly for June, was more or less above average across the board. Most places just a little bit above average, but a greater deviation in the west, interestingly, compared to the east. For July, the temperature anomaly again was more or less above average. These are all set against 61 to 90, by the way. So if you was thinking about 81 to 2010, these would be closer to average. But set against 61 to 90, generally most parts of the country coming out with a slightly above average again. This time it's a greater anomaly to the far eastern side of the country. August looks like the warmest month of the summer, particularly for central eastern parts of England. So the anomaly there across much of eastern England was around 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees above average. Just slightly above average in the northern and western part of the country. So the idea that we'd have a better early summer and then it would deteriorate in the latter summer, that didn't come off at all. Actually, it got better as the summer went along. Precipitation, we see that June was generally quite a wet month, especially so for England and Wales and eastern parts of Scotland, a little bit drier than average. Northwest of Scotland, quite interestingly. July, a big north-south split. It was wetter than average in the north, pretty grim month in July for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northwest England. But for many central southern parts of England and Wales, it was significantly drier than average. Really, really dry summer across some of these southwestern parts of the country. Dry July, I should say, across some of these southwestern parts of the country. And then August was much closer to average. Still drier than average in the southeast and across eastern Scotland. A bit wetter than average in the northwest of England. Otherwise, the anomaly was rather close to average, maybe on the slightly drier side more than the wetter side. So it's been a very complicated, so it was a complicated forecast to get together. And the idea of having a front-loaded summer, so warmer, drier in June and then wetter and more unsettled in August, that plainly didn't come off. It was wetter in June and got drier, particularly in the south in July and August. That was mainly down to the idea of the Niño to Niña flip. Of course, we didn't get that El Niño to La Niña flip, and as a result, we finished up with really quite a hot summer, warm summer down in the southeastern part of the country. So, in terms of the temperature anomaly, that wasn't too bad actually. We said slightly warmer than average summer likely, slightly drier than average summer likely. But so their broad headlines not too bad. Once you get into the detail, I'm not really sure we can claim this as a success. I'll leave it up to you all to judge. So that's the summer forecast, done and dusted. The summer period well and truly over now. That closes the door. We're into autumn. We're just waiting for the weather to catch up and realise that we're into autumn and start to cool down and turn more unsettled. Will happen eventually, of course. So we're on into the winter updates now in terms of the long range. We've already issued the autumn forecast. That gets verified at the beginning of December. And for the next few weeks, we'll be looking at the winter in terms of the longer range forecast. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching our verification for the summer 2016 forecast, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching.